Good morning and welcome to our April Lunch and Learn webinar session on Increase Efficiency in Sage 100. Today, Ms. Erin Oldaker from ISM is going to be presenting a lot of tips and tricks that are going to make your day easier. A little bit of housekeeping before we begin. Lines will be muted throughout the presentation. Questions will be accepted at the end of the presentation when we will open up the phone lines. In the meantime, if something comes up, please feel free to use the question pane or the chat window to ask your question, and I will make sure that they are addressed at the end of the presentation. With that, I'm going to turn everything over to Erin. Erin, thank you and welcome.
Thanks, Sherry. So we're going to take a look today at increasing efficiency with your processes within Sage. Let's see. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at some hotkeys, and I have a PDF document we can take a look at. We're going to look at my tasks, some custom lookups. We're going to look at general journal entries, accounts payable and accounts receivable invoice data entry. To reduce duplication, we're going to look at sales order data entry and purchase order data entry, as well as auto generation. And we're also going to automate communication. So we can email communications with customers and vendors. We can send order confirmations. We can send invoices, statements. We can also send purchase orders. So with that, I'm going to jump into Sage. So one of the first things I wanted to share with people is the aspect of having hotkeys. I actually have a document here I can send to everyone who's in attendance today of the hotkey functionality that's available within the Sage 100 system to make things go a little faster. So one thing to keep in mind is anywhere that you see an underlined character on a menu, such as accept or cancel, it is Alt and that underlined character. So here's Alt A, Alt C. So to accept the data entry, you can click Alt A rather than grabbing your mouse and clicking the button. Canceling, deleting, or even printing, such as printing off a sales order or picking sheet, you can just hit Alt P. So this is actually 4 pages long, so there's a lot of little hotkey functionality, as you can see. But if you're ever wondering what a button does, you can take a look at this document and find out what that button does. Okay. So next, let's look at my tasks. So there is a tasks and a my tasks tab up at the top. And if you click on the my tab, so right now you guys know that you can pick a task, you can drag and drop it up here on the taskbar. Well, there's also a my tasks, and this gives you more flexibility. So you can almost create that module and task tree. You can create a custom one on the my tasks. So you can easily create a public or a private folder, so just for you to view or for everyone to view. We can say, okay, we could rename it. We can say, these are all my GL tasks that I need to do. So one of the main ones I do, so we can drag and drop, is account maintenance, right? And then we also do general journal entry. And these are the 2 things I do with GL. I can create a new folder. This can be for AP, and you can drop in your tasks there. Another cool thing that I really like is, let's say you're referring to an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document or a PDF file whenever you're doing general journal entries, and it's somewhere out on the server or it's on your desktop, right? Well, instead of having to go out and look for it on your desktop or on the server, you can actually drag and drop. So here's an Excel file. You can drag and drop that Excel file, PDF or Word, right, into this folder, and now you have the ability to just click on it and it automatically opens that spreadsheet that you're working on. Okay, so it's just a shortcut link to that file, but it's very helpful because you can pretty much just custom create whatever you want here. Okay, so that's a really cool feature that I like. So let's look at customizing grids. So I am going to go into customer maintenance. So this is going to work in places like sales order, purchase order, or anywhere that there's data entry screens. Whoops, that is another one. We're going to go into sales order. And where's the screen? It's slowly populating. Okay. So we're in sales order. Okay. So anywhere that there is a data entry screen, you have the ability to export this. Where is the export? So I am using this new view. I wonder if it's because we're using the new view. So in any data entry, anywhere you see data entry, you have the ability to export this information. And there is an Excel icon down here at the bottom, and usually it's in the classic view. We're looking at the 2017, 2018 version, and these screens look slightly different. So I will have to look up and see why that Excel button. They're usually an Excel button. If you're on an older version from before 2017, you'll have that icon, but it's down here on the bottom right-hand corner. It's just a little X with an Excel icon, and you can click on it, and it will take all of these data file or data entries, and it will drop it into Excel. So you can easily go through. If it's a huge sales order, you have a bunch of line items, you want to filter, you want to sort, you know, you can do that in Excel just like you can in any kind of Excel. So let's see. So in addition to like customizing or to exporting files from data entry screens, you can do custom lookups. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with custom lookups. It's a very useful tool. So so here in customer maintenance, you know, you can start typing in the name of a customer. If you have a recent version, you'll have this autocomplete. So you can just click on a customer, right? If you don't start typing it, you have to go out to the magnifying glass, which is going to take you to this lookup, right? Well, there's some features here that we can add to. So this is just a standard view. It's going to give you customer number, name, status, zip code, sort field. Well, sometimes you want more information than that if you're trying to search for a specific customer, right? You can come down here in the bottom left-hand corner, and you can click on this custom button, okay? And now we can create a new view. So we can enter, I'm going to look up states. So we can enter the description here. We can choose for it to be our default view. I'm not going to choose that because I want to show you how to access it, but you can definitely choose that so it always defaults to this view that you've customized. And it's loading. Okay. So over here on the left-hand side, you have all the available fields that you can use, okay? In the right-hand side, these are the selected columns. So as you can see, name, status, zip code, those are what's showing in this current view. Well, okay, so we can add, you know, email address. We could add state. I want to add city. All of these fields are going to be fields that exist in the customer master file, okay? But if you scroll down far enough, so we can do credit limit. If you scroll down far enough, there is also other tables that you can access that link to this customer file, okay? So if you wanted to, you can look at, you know, the AR customer contact table, and there's a bunch of additional line items. You can look at the CI item table. This is the item master, right? So you can link that, or the zip code. So you have the ability to pull over any of these other tables and fields within those tables. So I have all the fields that I want, the selected columns that are over here on the right-hand side. So next, I'm just going to say next. And the next thing it says is a filter. So you can come in here and say, okay, I want to filter by state. So I only want to see California, right? And this will filter the list automatically for you. I am not going to do a filter because I want to be able to see the whole list. And my computer's a little slow. So we're not going to do a filter. The next thing is the view. So this is the way that it looks the default like search column. So down here on the bottom, when you are looking for, let's say, a customer and you have to change the customer number to customer name each time, and let's say if the change begins with to contains each time, so that you can just start typing in, you know, something that exists in the customer name, right? Well, now you can default that. So here I can say, okay, I always want it to do the search column as the customer name, and I always want to have it contain, okay? And so we're going to click finish. It brings us back to the original, the standard view. If you look down here on the bottom, it says standard view. That's the standard one that we're used to. But now we have a drop down, so we can choose our other view that we created. So I chose the state view, and now we have this email is very long. Let's clean that up a little. So now we have all these additional fields. We have the sort field, we have the email address, the state, city, credit limit, and you can put whatever fields you want. So another thing that you can do with this is, like the data entry screen, is you can export this information to Excel. So down here on the bottom right-hand corner, where the select and cancel is, there's this little icon that shows Excel. And I can easily just click on the Excel button. It's going to go out. It's going to export all that data into Excel for us. And now we have the customer list in Excel. So now we can filter, we can sort, we can do whatever we want, just like we do in regular Excel, right? Some people use this as a reporting tool. Rather than having to create a custom report in Crystal or whatever, some of these lookups, you should be able to include the fields that you need for, let's say, a report, and then you can easily just look at the custom lookup view and export it to Excel, and now you have a report. And so this is up to date, right? Not this Excel spreadsheet, but this is right now, right? This is a live information. So if you're in sales order entry, if you're in PO entry or vendor list or whatever, anytime this changes, let's say the credit limit changes, this will automatically update. And so you can easily just push it out to Excel. So this is, if you're constantly like looking up the same things in the same way, okay? So you can create those custom views, and you can save them out. So, okay, so in addition to that, we can also, let's do general ledger journal entries. So let's go into general journal entry. So if you're doing general journal entries that you're continually using over and over again, each month, rather than hand entering them, you can actually use a template to recall that same journal entry. Oops. So let's create a batch, and I want to do a journal entry. The posting date looks fine. I can put whatever comment I want, and that will save. So now let's just do a quick journal entry. We're just going to pick random GL accounts. So another thing, so if you're doing journal entries, I don't know if you know about this, but there is a button over here on the right-hand side that says net balance, or you can click on Alt-B. And what it's going to do is it's automatically going to give you, so if you have a bunch of debits, you know, and you don't want to calculate it to put the final credit, you can click on this net balance icon and it will automatically populate that credit for you. So it will balance it out so that you're at zero, so that it's not an uneven entry. Let's see. So we can say save standard, and we can say insurance monthly distribution, save comments, perfect, accept. So the journal entry we just entered is out there under that we can post, right? But in the future, if we wanted to come back here and pull up that same journal entry, we can click on this standard listing. Oops, cancel, wrong button. We want to do copy from, cancel. Okay, so it's next month. We want to use that same journal entry, create the batch. We have to enter what source code and then the entry number. And now we have a copy from button. And this copy from button gives you a few different options. So you can copy from a standard journal, which is the one we just saved. You can copy from a journal in the history. So, any journal entry that you've already entered, you can look it up by going through the history or by allocation. So I am going to choose standard, and we have a few different journals that we have saved out here, okay? So I'm just going to click on, I have two insurance ones, but the insurance one that I did, this is the other day, I did a full insurance. So what it does is it brings over all of the GL accounts. I know this isn't the same one that I did, but this is a better example. It brings over all the GL accounts, but it doesn't bring over the total debits and credits. So now you have the ability to enter. I mean, if the dollar amounts change every month now, instead of entering in all these accounts that you're using over and over, now you can just enter in the total dollar amount for each of the accounts. And now we can use that net balance, and there we go. It balanced out our journal entry for us. I can accept this, I can save it, I can post it. Okay, so that's how you can pull up from other journal entries by saving it as a standard journal entry or pulling from journal history. So this is going to be good for like wages accrual, prepaid property taxes, reclassification or accruals for like month end. Okay. So another way to streamline your processes is going to be, we're going to look in AP. So the first thing, we're going to look at this thing called expense distribution table. And I don't know when it was added, but it's a pretty cool feature that not a lot of people know about. So the first thing we want to do is go into AP, accounts payable, options, so setup. And then down here at the bottom, or towards the bottom, it says expense distribution table maintenance. And we can click on this and we can create a distribution. So let's pull this over here. So I've already created one. We can look at this one, but you can create as many expense distribution tables as you need to. You enter the description, okay? So I'm just looking up one. But here we're going to have, okay, so this is one we've set up already, and it's for a telephone bill, right? So I want to put the expenses for the telephone bill out to multiple departments, right? So 10, 20, 30, 40. And then I have a percentage amount that I want to spread across, the different departments or the different accounts, right? So this is really good for monthly bills, like electric, water, gas, telephone, cell phone, rent, wherever you're allocating by a percentage across different departments or accounts. So even if you don't use like a hard percentage number, you can still use this to populate the account numbers and enter the amounts manually, so that at least you can get the account numbers in there. Just like that journal entry, the standard journal entry that we saved, it brought in all of the GL accounts. So I've set up this, I'm gonna say accept. Now we wanna see where we actually use it. So if we go into main, we have an invoice for a telephone. We're in invoice data entry. We're gonna choose our vendor, and we're gonna choose an invoice amount. So I'm gonna say $1,000, okay? Now you have this area that's been filled out or that's been activated called the expense distribution table. And it's underlined in green because you can go directly from invoice data entry into the expense distribution table, where the maintenance screen where you can set it up. So if you're in invoice data entry and you decide, oh, I want to set up a distribution table on the fly, this will take you right out to that, okay? So all I have to do is come in here, I choose my expense distribution table that I've already set up, okay? And now I go to the lines tab, and now it has spread the dollar amounts across the different departments or across the different GL account numbers by that percentage that we entered in. And so again, if you don't have a hard percentage number, you can just put in a whatever percentage, and then you can come in here and you can change this on the fly. So let's say, the dollar amount really changed. I change it to 150. Now we have a distribution balance, so we got to put it somewhere else, or else it's going to fail on that for us. Pretty easy. So accept, print, post, just like you would do with any invoice, okay? Another thing I want to show you, which is a pretty quick one, if you go in and you're doing check printing and electronic payment and you void some checks, right? Well, they're sitting out there in the system, but you do have the ability to actually remove the voided checks. So if you come in here under utilities, it is just one click. It's this down here on the bottom, it says remove voided checks. You click on it, it chooses a range. You can choose a range of check numbers, right? You can choose a specific bank code, and then you're just going to click proceed. Yes, it's just saying, are you sure you want to remove those? We're going to say yes, and now it's removed all those voided checks. Okay, so next I want to talk to you about AR. So we have the ability to enter invoices that repeat, like monthly fees, maintenance, warranties, rent that you have to send invoices out to, etc. So then you don't have to re-enter them over and over again. So let's go out to AR. Where is it? AR. Invoice data entry is what we usually do, but you can actually use repetitive invoice entry. So the repetitive invoice entry looks very similar to invoice data entry. I just want to show them side by side. Here's our invoice data entry, and here's our repetitive invoice data entry. So it's asking for, first it's going to ask for the customer number. Okay, so we're going to choose that customer number. It's always going to be the same for this specific repetitive invoice. Now we're going to say a reference. So you can set up a specific reference, like for example, we're using monthly maintenance, okay? And it is now populating the monthly maintenance that I've set up, okay? So you have now a select cycle. You don't have that in invoice data entry. Now you have a select cycle, and the cycle code is so that when you go to choose your repetitive invoices for the month or the week, you can enter in a filter like a cycle. So you can say, 15 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever you want. You can select a cycle for that. You can choose a start billing date, an end billing date. And then you have the net invoice. So I'm going to actually cancel out this. We'll create a new one. So my reference here is print. And we do it every 30 days. And our stop billing, 2020. Comments, terms code, salesperson, this is all very similar, okay? You can go to the lines tab, and here you can choose, since it's an AR invoice data entry, we don't have inventory assigned to it, but here we can choose any of the miscellaneous items that we have set up, for example. So let's say we want to look at miscellaneous item. This is just monthly maintenance. We'll use that one. And we have it set up for the price of $1,000. So let's say rent was $1,000. Okay. So now we have this set up. We can do multiple item codes if we want, etc. Okay. It gives us a GL account automatically assigned to that miscellaneous code, and we are done. So we can click on accept. And now if we click on that reference, it has saved in here, right, as rent. So now to pull this up, so we're not actually posting from repetitive invoice entry. We have to take one more step. So we've entered all the repetitive invoices, right? Now we want to pull up that repetitive invoice. So here we're going to go to create a batch. Here's our repetitive invoice selection, okay? So I can choose the invoice date, the selection date, okay? You can choose the next customer number, or the next invoice number. That's going to automatically populate. here's where I was mentioning the cycles. So here I can say, I want to pull up anything that needs to be paid every 30 days or every 15 days or whatever you enter in that cycle. You can also just sort it or filter it by customer number or even reference. Okay, you can use a reference number. So I'm just going to click proceed. It goes out, it looks for it. It selects the ones I want to use. Now I'm going to choose cancel. And now it is in invoice data entry. And so we can go look it up. So here's our batch that it created. And here's that invoice. So all we had to do was click on invoice selection. We chose which invoices we wanted to pull up. And now it's an invoice data entry. You can come into invoice data entry. You can make changes to it, obviously, or you can verify the information is correct. But you still have to then post it. Okay, so it's the same way that you post. So you would create the repetitive invoice first, and then when you're ready to actually choose the invoices, you would do invoice selection. And then you can go to straight invoice printing or sales journal just to post it if you don't have any changes with it for invoice data entry. Okay, so let's talk about streamlining our sales order process. So let's go into sales order entry. So let's say you have a customer that comes to you and wants to buy like 1,000 of these widgets, okay? But they don't want to take delivery all at once. They just want to like whittle away at the order. With this, you can create a master order. Where is my sales order screen? Okay, so just like regular sales order entry, you choose the next order number. Let's first choose the order type. So we have order type. Now, I don't know if you guys look over this, but there's different options that we have here. So you're usually using a standard order. Some of you are just using a quote. Well, we can use a master order, okay? And again, we have a cycle code. So we could say we want to create the sales order every 30 days. And we choose a customer. We can enter that customer PO number. We can change any of this other information that pulls in automatically from AR customer. And then now I am going to choose an item. So we're going to choose this item and we're going to say, okay, my master order, they want to purchase 1,000 units, but they want to whittle away. So this is the master order. This is just a saved template, okay, for this order. So I'm just going to click accept. Brings us back to sales order entry screen. Okay, so let's say it is now time we want to pull items. We want to actually sell items from that master order. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say order number next, where order type is going to be standard, okay? And now we have master repeating number. So now I can actually look up any master orders that are out there, right, that have been created already. So the one I created just now was for Maverick Papers, okay? So I'm going to select that one. The order date shows you 4/12. It brings in all that same information. It will show you the amount left over, okay? So if I've already sent out 10 of these last month, this is now going to say $19.90 left, or $9.90 left, right? So I'm going to say, okay, I want to order only 10. And it's just saying quantity is not available, which is fine. So we're going to order 10 of those, okay? And then accept, post, just like you would do, or not post, sorry, just accept as you would normally do with a sales order, and you're set. So another thing that you can do is a repeating order. So let's say you have a customer that orders the exact same thing over and over. So now rather than starting from scratch with the sales order, you can come back in and pull up the order again. So here we're going to do repeating order. So similar to master, we're going to pick our customer number, change any information, obviously, that we want. And this is what they're going to order every month or every, 15 days or Okay, so now we have set up the template. So the nice thing about these master orders and repeating orders is they're just a template. So they're not going to actually affect inventory. Like a sales order is going to say on sales order, like quantity on sales order for this item. But with master orders and repeating orders, it doesn't affect inventory, okay? It's just a template. So I'm going to say accept. So now let's say, you know, it's time, this customer wants to make this repeating order, okay? We would, order type is standard order again. And now we're going to choose the master repeating order. So here under type, you can see R's and M's. The R's are obviously repeating orders. The M's are master orders. So I'm going to choose that repeating order that we have. It's going to populate all this information, the customer number, the ship to, all that. And now in the lines tab, it has now entered the same item, that order quantity, you know, and you can do as many items on here as you want. But this is going to be good for when clients or when customers use the exact same order, you know, every week, every month, etc. Okay, so in purchase order, there is a similar process that you have in sales order. Let's get out of that. Purchase order. Let's see, purchase order entry. So if you are ordering the same thing on a regular basis from a vendor, you have the same thing that you can create, okay? So you can do a repeating order or you can do a master order. And so this is the same concept as the sales order, except this is just for when you're purchasing from a vendor. Okay, so you have those set up already for purchase order. Also, in the purchase order process, you can do an auto generate from sales orders. So if you have a lot of sales orders you're sitting on, but you want to make sure that you have enough inventory, you can generate a PO based on only the quantity that you require. So the system's going to say, I have 100 in stock and 50 on sales order, and you have a reorder point saved in your inventory module. So, okay, wait, sorry. So auto-generate from sales orders is you can auto-generate from open sales orders that are out there. But you also have the AutoReorder Selection. And this is the one where you can choose reorder points or to create a PO based on an item. Let's say you have an item that has 1,000 in stock, right? And you want to order, you know, the amount that's on a PO. You can do this AutoReorder Selection. So the place that you actually set this up, which is nice, this is really good for purchasing, is in item maintenance under each of the inventory items. If you click on this more over here in the corner, you can go to a reorder screen. And this is now going to give you information that you can enter. So you can do it by warehouse. You can choose it by bin location. You choose a reorder method. Most people usually choose reorder point, okay? And then you would enter your reorder point, you know, 40 units. You can enter a minimum order quantity and a max quantity on hand. So when you do this auto reorder, it is going to look at all these fields and it's going to look at the quantity on hand. So it's going to see, you know, reorder point quantity, it's going to show you minimum order quantity and maximum on hand quantity, okay? All that information is going to show up here. So that's what's really driving this auto reorder selection. So this is going to be more useful for you. So rather than your purchasing person having to go look up individually how many on hand, or running a stock status report, you know, that's 200 pages long, trying to figure out on your own what you need to reorder, this is going to give you a report that you can view that shows you what it's suggesting what you should reorder. And you can choose by vendor number, you can choose a range of items, you can choose a specific product line. If you have any UDS, custom fields, you can also search by those, or you can just do all of it. So I'm just going to click proceed. We have to wait a sec while it I believe it populates. Do I need to close out of this? Oh. Okay, so now it's gone out and it's chosen those, and now it's saying, do you want to generate the orders? So we're going to say next purchase order. That's just going to automatically populate, and we're going to say yes. And now what we can do is we can go into purchase order entry, and hopefully we have some. There we go. We had one. So this was from today. So this is one of the reorders that we have to do. So it's telling us it told us we needed to buy 15 so that we could fulfill sales orders, or that our reorder point was met. Okay. So that's reorder selection, and then there's also generate from sales orders. So I would highly recommend setting up those reorder points that are in item maintenance, especially on stuff that you move frequently. So these reorder points, obviously, they talk to that purchase order functionality, which is going to be very useful. Okay, so let's look at Paperless Office. So Paperless Office isn't just about saving your registers and journals. You also have the ability to send out sales orders, invoices, purchase orders, etc. Now, to do that, there's a little bit of setup. You might already be set up for it. In Paperless Office options, you want to come here, you want to make sure that forms enable electronic delivery and PDF storage. You want to make sure that forms is checked off here, okay? Next thing you want to do is go to form maintenance, and you only have to do all this once. There it is. So here is where we're going to choose the specific company code. So I already have some set up, but we can do all companies. We choose the module code, and then we choose what we want to send out. So here we have all companies. I want to send out purchase orders, and then you can choose purchase order, etc. Here's where you set up enable electronic delivery. So you want to check this off. And then you want to enter a from email address. So this is who it's going to come from. Oh, wait, one more thing. I'm sorry. You have to set up, this is what you have to set up first before you can even start emailing stuff. You might already have this set up, but under company maintenance, there's an email tab. And in this email tab, you need to enter your SMTP mail server information. And you should be able to get this from your IT company or your IT guys. So just send them like a screenshot, say, I need this information, get this information entered, do a test email just to make sure that the configuration is correct, okay? And so once that's set up, you can pretty much email out. So let's go back into form maintenance. You can email out those forms. Cancel, sorry about that. And we were looking at purchase order. And then so PDF directory, this should just be entered wherever your Paperless Office documents are. That's where we usually put them, in that same folder, just for easy reference. But you can create your own folders out in the Math90 directory, which is ideal for upgrades because the forms and the papers are all in the same directory when you move over. You have to enter a password and override password. And then you can also set up information for like checks and electronic payment information, or payroll direct deposit information. Okay, so that's on tab 2. So we have the PO order set up. So next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that our vendor has an email account and has been set up as a paperless vendor. So to do this, you come to vendor maintenance. You can either enter an email address here. Okay, you can have multiple email addresses separated by semicolons. Then what you can do is you click on this paperless button, and this is where you set it up. So it's saying vendor number. Now it's asking you document. Okay, so you can either do AP or check, since this is in purchase, or since this is in AP. So we're going to do purchase orders. Here we're going to say, okay, what do you want the delivery option to be? You can say print and email. You can say just email, right? Electronic delivery only, or you can say just print. Everything is defaulted right now to just print. So we're going to choose email checked off. You can put a password on this document that you would need to tell the recipient what the password is to open that file. I'm just going to leave it just because it's a PO. Here's where you choose the email option. So you can say use email address and data entry. So that would be in purchase order entry, there is an email field, okay? You can use that email that's entered in data entry. You can use the vendor email address. So that's coming from the vendor header tab or the main tab with that email address that you've entered here. Or you can use a contact code that's set up. So here's a bunch of contacts. So this is just a sample company, and you can put them by name, you know, and then you can pull them up. What I would recommend doing with contact codes is creating like a general contact, nope, that's not it, a general contact name. Where is it? Okay, so we're choosing the buyer. Let's go back. So I accepted that. Where is contact? Primary contact. This buyer. So what I would recommend when you set up your contacts is instead of using someone's name, you can use like their position, because the title is always going to stay the same. But then you can assign the person's name. So here we have like Sherry Smith, she's the buyer. So if she leaves the company, we still can use the same contact code. We just update the name. Okay. So we have this set up for Paperless Office. You only have to set that up once. We can also import that information in, like we can import it into vendor maintenance to go into Paperless, check off that email checkbox, import the email information, and get it all set up. We can import that if you have a visual integrator module. Okay, so now let's go into purchase order. And we're going to send out a purchase order. So let's see if I have any. I think Airway Property is the first one. So here's Airway Property. Okay, we're going to go to, everything looks good, right? We have everything on order. We're going to go to either Quick Print or the print icon, just like you would usually do when you're printing your POs or your sales orders or invoices. Here you can choose your form code, and this will default to whatever form code you last used. You now have a field that's been activated called Paperless Office Output. And you have a few options. You can say print all. This is what it defaults to. You can say electronic delivery only. So if you have a range of purchase orders that you want to send out, some of them are set up for printing, some of them are set up for delivery, electronic delivery. You can choose like print PDF or electronic deliver, right? So if they're set up as electronic delivery, you're going to email it. If they're set up as print, you're going to print it. So we can do either. This one though, we only have one PO that we're looking at, and we want to electronically deliver that. And you say print, it's going to go out and connect to the server that we set up in SMTP settings. And that's the email address that we set up in vendor maintenance. And now you're going to get the results. So the one thing with Paperless Office emailing out, it is not going to give you a copy in your Outlook or your email outbox to see, you know, to reference it later. Some people will put multiple email addresses. They'll put their vendor email address, then they'll put their own email address so that they get a copy of it to make sure that it really went out. All you're going to see here is the number of attempted emails and the number of successful emails. And it's not going to tell you which ones were failed. It's just going to tell you quantity of successful emails, okay? So that is how you would email out electronic delivery out of form. And you can do that with invoices, sales orders. You can do it with AP checks, obviously purchase orders, etc. So that's kind of a quick rundown on some things that might help you with efficiency in your Sage 100 product. Does anybody have any questions about some of the things we went over?
Let me open up all lines. Lines are now open for any questions. I do not see any in the question pane nor the chat window.
But no,
Okay, I will assume that there are no questions. If something does come up, please feel free to reach out to us at AM for Account Manager, am@goism.com. With that, I thank everyone for their attendance. Please keep an eye on our schedule. We've got some great webinars coming up for the rest of the month. Erin, I thank you for your knowledge and expertise and for sharing your time with us today. Thank you for your presentation.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.